Hey guys, what's going on? Matt here, and welcome back to the Black Extreme Mod Tools tutorial series. So then, this video is on how to actually add custom sounds to your map. So we'll pretty much be going over how to add the actual sound itself, how to change a few of the properties, which are the most common properties that you'll need to change, and of course, actually showing it working in game. The next video will be about how to actually play them. There's a few different ways to play them, so I wanted to kind of make one video so I can properly cover it in quite a good amount of detail. So let's get to it. So first of all, what you're going to do is download two things that I'll provide a download link to in the description. That's going to be a sounds reference and a little text document with some code in it. The way sounds work, we have the raw sound itself. We then link that via a CSV file to the actual map, which basically contains a bunch of properties. And then we then link that CSV to the actual map itself via the SZC file. So it's just a bunch, there's like three different things to do pretty much. But once you've done it once, it does, it's quite a quick process to add more sounds as and when you need them. So first of all, of course, make sure you have a sound file. I have this YouTube test sound here. This is a test sound, which is literally just me saying this is a test sound, okay? Nothing complex there. Next what we need to do, of course, is edit this. By edit, I mean just change a few of the properties and make sure it's completely compatible for Black Ops 3. So to do that, I recommend using a program called Audacity. It's some free software you can just download. First, what we're going to do is, of course, if you want to record in this, you can by all means record, within Audacity. If you don't want to do that and you already have a sound set up, which I do, all you're going to do is just drag and drop it in. Easy as that, okay? Now, just a quick pointer though, make sure you do have a good amount of volume on this sound, because when you get into game, I've done it a few times, I've played a sound, I think it's not working, and it is playing, it's just really quiet. Even though the actual game volume itself is on like 100%, the actual sound itself was just too quiet. So make sure it does have quite a good amount of volume to it. You can always make it, you can always make it much more quiet when we get to the CSV part of things. That isn't a problem. So just make sure it's got a good amount of volume to it first of all. So next what we need to do is change one thing. Now mine's already set for this, because I've done this before. What you need to do is set the project rate to 48,000 hertz. That's pretty much it really. Once you've done that, you can then go up to File, Export, and export as WAV. Now this file that I put into Audacity, it could have been an MP3 file, it could have been anything really. I just happen to have a WAV file set up already. So export as WAV. There we go. And just call this whatever you want. I'm going to call it, I'm going to put it into custom sounds. I'm going to call it, what shall I call it? I'll call it YouTube sound. YouTube sound.wav. Make sure obviously you don't have any spaces in. Use underscores for this sort of stuff. Make sure it's WAV, Microsoft signed 16-bit PCM. So pretty much the way I have it there. Of course, with your file name. Just go hit save and OK. So now you can see we have YouTube sound created here. So now we can exit out of Audacity, not a problem. And on to the next bit. So we've got now YouTube sound. What do I do first? Let's set up the CSV first part of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to go over to my Black Ops 3 root directory and go into sound assets. So Black Ops 3 root, go into sound assets. Now you can put this file directly into here if you want, or you can create a folder. It's completely up to you. I'm going to create a folder just to keep it nice and neat. So I'm going to call it YouTube sounds. Okay, so I'll create a folder in there, and I'm going to put this sound within there. Okay, it might be a good idea to sort of separate sounds into folders like maps. So you can see here I have ZM Atrium, which is my Atrium map I released. I have the Easter egg music within there. Any common sounds that I use for like multiple maps, instead of repeating the same sound over and over again into multiple areas, I just have one folder called P115, and that's got all my very commonly used sounds in. So it's nice and easy to use. So kind of a file structure like that, I kind of recommend doing one which is quite common generic sort of sounds, and then one which is quite specific ones. If you are planning on using quite a few. But of course, for the scope of this video, I'm only using one sound, and we're just going to set up one sound. So put that into sound assets, and of course just remember the file path, and of course the actual file name itself. Next, what we need to do is actually set up the CSV now then. So this is basically the file that sort of basically keeps track of all the properties. Okay, this is where we define all the different properties for this sound. So what I've done is, as I said, in the description you'll find this. Now if I just open and edit it, I've only covered music and FX in this. If you want things like voiceovers, things like that, I can't really cover that because I don't really have any experience doing any voiceover stuff for Black Ops 3. But you know, typically you would be having things like FX. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you had something dead that was on the floor and you had some flies buzzing around it. That would be FX. Of course, if you have music, it's, you know, typically Easter egg music, stuff like that. But you know, hopefully this will cover what you need. If you do want to do voice, I'm sure you'll be able to find something on some sort of forum somewhere. But in terms of actually setting up the sound, it's pretty much all the same stuff. Okay, it's just a few different properties. So this file which I've provided, what I've done is, you'll see we have these hashtags. Okay, now these hashtags are basically comments. So this entire file is structured by lines, right? So every single line is a new entry. Of course, we have all like the titles for each column. So every single comma is each one. You can see they're all separated by commas. So for example, this one, you know, this one might refer to, say, this part here. I need to count it to be sure, but this one might refer to this one here, for example. If you do open up this file in an Excel spreadsheet, you do see everything formatted quite nicely in columns. It's a lot easier to work with if you do have Excel, just because I can't guarantee everyone will have that installed. I'm opening it in Notepad just for that reason. So as I said, each one of these lines is a comment, which is basically a note for ourselves. Each line without a hashtag is an actual line that's actually going to be used. So what I've done here is I've got 2D and 3D versions of each. I've got music and FX, and I've got looping and non-looping versions. So of course 2D and 3D is how it's going to be played, you know, whether it's going to sound like it's coming from an object or it's just going to play it, you know, kind of globally. Of course, if it's going to be music or FX, so this is when you go into your options and you can actually, you know, lower and raise the volume of music and such. Of course, a lot of YouTubers have their music turned off, so having it on the correct track really helps. You know, so the actual, you know, so the correct sound actually plays, you know, or doesn't play. And of course, non-looping and looping is if, you know, if you want it to be on repeat or not. Typically, if you want, maybe, as I said earlier, flies buzzing around maybe like a dead animal on the floor, typically you'd have that using like a 3D FX looping. You know, it'd be three-dimensional because, you know, as you walk away from it, you want it to get quieter. It'd be FX because, you know, it's FX, and of course you want it looping because you want it to be playing constantly. So there's an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to X out of this. I'm just going to copy this. So I'm going to do a Control C, and I'm going to go over to my Black Ops 3. Go to Share, Raw, Sound, and Aliases. I'm just going to paste it into here. Okay. I don't want to be editing the original. You can do. It's not a problem. But I want to keep using this as a reference. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, as in, which I need to use this as a reference myself for, you know, other things. So I don't want to make any edits to this. And plus I need it for the download link. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to find where it was sounds reference. So it's here. I'm just going to rename this now to my map. So as I said earlier, with that folder structure that I went over, I tend to have one folder sort of like, you know, for very generic sounds that I use in most maps, and one which is very map specific. I use the same format pretty much and the same layout for my CSV files as well. So I have one which is all very sort of generic sort of sounds. So maybe it's like a bleep, maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe like a siren sound. I have all that within this one here, and of course ones which are very map specific, so maybe it's Easter egg music, I have it within map specific ones. That's kind of the general file structure that I tend to go by. You can do whatever you want, just make sure that you know that you include it within the CSV. So for this, I'm going to call this YouTube sounds. Okay, so I'm going to call this CSV YouTube sounds. So now within here, I'm now going to define that sound that we just opened. So I'm going to right click and click edit. I'm just going to really quickly go back to our sound itself, just so I can see the file names. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically delete everything in here apart from the one that I actually want. Now of course, if you do want to use more than one, feel free to copy and paste, you know, the appropriate line, you know, underneath these sort of headers. Feel free to copy and paste the actual line itself. Of course, if you've already deleted it, by all means go back to your reference file, you know, basically like, you know, your completely unedited version, and feel free to, you know, drag and drop that into there, you know, as and when you need it, pretty much. It's what I use quite frequently now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything apart. So I'm going to be using a 2D music looping. Let's go for that. So delete everything apart from 2D music looping. Delete these two up here as well. I'll delete the little comment up here as well, why not? So now I have a 2D music looping, okay? I'm actually going to delete this as well, just because that was only a, you know, like a header just for you, just so you guys know exactly what you're using. So now we've got this. Now make sure you do keep these parts, this stuff at the top. This is needed. This is all your column headers. You will always need that. The only thing you really need to keep, apart from the header, is of course the one line that you actually want to be using, which is this one. So this is going to be a 2D. So it's a 2D sound. It's going to loop on repeat, and it's going to be under the music track. Okay. Of course, if I wanted to maybe use a 3D FX non-looping, I could very easily go into Sounds Reference, grab this one line, and copy and paste it into here like such, and just make a new entry like that. Okay. It really is line by line stuff here. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is edit just two things. That's it. Just two things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the sound name. So this is basically going to be what we're going to refer to as, you know, actually in region, in scripts, things like that. Okay, this is exactly what it's going to be known as. So sound name, I'm going to call this YouTube sound. YouTube underscore sound. I've realised this is the same name as the actual file itself. It doesn't have to be. It just happens that I've named it the same as what I'd normally call it anyway. Feel free to call this sound 1, sound 2, sound 3 if you really want to. Just I'd recommend keeping it, you know, kind of self-explanatory, so you know kind of what everything's called later on. So what I'm going to do next is of course the file path. Make sure you do, you know, keep quite strict with where you know, editing things. If you do edit the wrong comma, it will mess all of this line up. So make sure you do keep, you know, keep quite careful with what you're editing here. Just make sure you keep them within, you know, within the commas really. Yeah, that's really quite important here. So folder sound name.wav. Now of course, if you're not using a folder, you know, if this is directly within sound assets, take out the folder part. In this case, I'm using a folder called YouTube Sounds. So I'm going to put into folder YouTube Sounds, and the file name itself being YouTube Sound.wav. So now all I've done is I've coded this file YouTube Sound. So now from now on, this sound will be basically used by calling that name. And it's located within the YouTube Sounds folder, and the actual sound file itself is called YouTube Sound.wav. Hopefully it's not too confusing just because I'm using the same name. Feel free to whatever, you know, feel free to, you know, use whatever name you want here. Just make sure you keep this stuff here, you know, depending on what it is up here. Okay, that's kind of the more important part there. So I'm going to just go over just a few of these properties, really basic stuff, but it's, you know, it's some of the more common stuff to use. So I'm not going to be going over a lot of these because, as I said, I've included it within this reference. So if you did want to change it to non-looping, it is actually this property here you change, but I provided the version of that within here. And, you know, of course, if you want to change it to 3D, you change this part here. But again, you know, I've included the version of it in here. So, you know, if you're doing a mess about with it, feel free to go ahead. And of course, you can use this to reference, so you know what you're editing. So the one thing you'll be changing is these two values here. If you did open this in Excel, couldn't say it then, it'll be under volume in and volume max. Okay, that is the corresponding column to these. This is literally the volume level in game. So of course, as I said earlier, you know, make your sound, you know, make like the raw sound nice and loud. If it is too loud in game, change these values. So at the moment these are set to 100%. Of course, if you want it quieter, change the value. Simple as that. Okay. a lot of the time, if you change it to say 95, it does reduce it significantly. So only do it by bits, and of course keep experimenting it to what you want. Of course, 95 won't make it really quiet. It's just it does change significantly though from 100, only 5%. So don't change it to like 40 because you might not even be able to hear it anymore. So it's all a bit of trial and error there. Okay, so change that to what you think. Of course, at the moment, keep it as 100, see what it sounds like at 100, and change it accordingly. So I'm just going to save this, file save. We've got all this set up, so now we're going to be calling YouTube sound. Okay, so exit that. Next what we need to do is actually place this within the SZC file. So at the moment, we've got the sound set up. It's in the CSV with all the corresponding properties for it to be a 2D music sound, and it's also going to be a looping and repeat. So what we now need to do is go over to our Black Ops 3 root directory, go over to user maps, go to our map name itself, which I'm using ZM test day. I'm going to go over to sound, zone config, and SZC. Open up that here. Okay, so now open up this one that I provided a download link to. Now all we're going to do is we're basically going to link that CSV now to the actual map itself. Of course, you saw earlier I had quite a few CSVs. I don't want them to all be included within every single map. A lot of them don't apply to every map. For example, if I was making if I was going to create another map, I wouldn't want a map specific CSV from another map. It would be, it'd be a waste. So only include obviously what you're actually going to be using. So what I've done is I've provided this. All you got to do is copy and paste this as such into here. So now you can see we have these two lines at the very end, and we have this close bracket and a comma. Okay, so directly after the comma, we'll create a new line and you'll paste that in. Of course, if you want another one, you can just keep on doing this. You can just keep on adding more and more. I'm only going to add one though, because I only have one CSV to sort of link to my map. So all we're going to do is go do the CSV name. Now, I don't remember actually what I called it. Let me just go back a moment. Chevron sound aliases. What do we call it? YouTube sounds. So I'm just going to copy and paste the sound name itself, and I'm just going to put it into both of these. So the name is of course YouTube sounds, and the actual file itself is YouTube sounds.csv. Make sure you have the extension on this second one here. Okay, so all you're going to do is put that into your SZC file. Of course, making sure the syntax is as I've shown here. It really is, that is probably the hardest part, to be fair, putting it here, because you might get your syntax slightly messed up here, but just keep it nice and simple like that. Just make sure there's two lines at the end and you should be good. So I'm going to save that. So what that's done now is it's now linked my CSV to my actual map itself. Within that CSV, we've defined the actual sound name, the file name, and a few of the properties, which of course we got from the reference file. And now we can go into game and actually play the map. Now what I've done off camera is I've basically set up a script so I can go up to a control panel and play the sound. In the next video I'll be going over the scripts used to actually play the sound itself. So if you want to do this next part, what's the next video? This next bit now that I'm about to show you in Black Ops 3 is purely just for like a bit of a demo, just show you guys it actually does work. But as I say, if you want to be playing it on maybe like a trigger, watch the next video, and I'll be going over that in in actual detail. So I'm going to go and compile my map. I think when you're doing a sound change, you only really need to link it. Yeah, I think it's only a link that's required there, but I'm going to do a full compile anyway. So I'll see you guys over at Black Ops 3. Okay, so then guys, we're over at Black Ops 3 now. Stop aiming, there we go. And let's run over to here. So we've got play the looping sound. Okay, so this is going to be that sound. This is a test sound. I'm hoping you guys could hear that on the recording. This is a test sound. And you can see it's still playing. This is a test sound. And it's going to do that on repeat probably forever. Just pause it, I don't want to keep hearing that. If I go into my options, into my audio, you can see I have all my music volume up high. If I turn that off, it no longer plays. And then if I put it back up, this is a test sound, and that's playing again. Okay, so we've set that up lovely there. So it's a 2D sound. You can see, you know, we've stepped quite far away from where we originally activated it, and it's now playing on repeat, and you know, everything's working as you'd expect. So in the next video, I'll be providing some script sort of examples, showing us a few ways to play sounds. It's by no means, you know, 100% everything that you'll ever need to know. There's definitely things, you know, that you can expand upon. But for, you know, some pretty, you know, good starting points, you know, it's a nice way to start. So hopefully this has helped. I realise it's quite a long one, but you know, I wanted to explain things quite well. Of course, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. But other than that, this has been how to set up your own custom sounds. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.